Hello everybody! World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria Remix is both one of the most controversial things World of Warcraft has done in recent years, but also, in my opinion, one of the best things it's ever done. Whether it comes down to people abusing frogs for bigger capes and more damage, the scaling being 5 kinds of borked at high levels, the cape capping at 100% XP that you can pass on to alts and go from there. Mists of Pandaria Remix has a lot of baffling decisions or just executions behind it. But the biggest takeaway for me at least, is that it's a ton of fun. It's been a blast to go back to Pandaria and just level up an enhancement shaman to prepare for the war within. I have other tunes that I want to level through it as well. And despite all of its issues, I sincerely hope that Blizzard listens to the community here, tries to fix the issues it has right now, but also take to heart these lessons for a potential next time we do Remix. This is easily a type of content that I don't think should be around all the time, but as a really hype event, yeah, go through with it. And the reason I don't want it around all the time is because I want more care and love to go into the next one. We have an extremely solid and fun base here that we can iterate on. And in this video, I kind of just want to gush about potential ideas that they could do for the next remix. Whether that comes at some point in the War Within or the end before midnight, or whoever knows. I think Blizzard are really on to something here despite the faults of MoP Remix. I think the biggest thing they should do though, for the next one, don't do Mists of Pandaria again. I am not saying this to fault Mists of Pandaria itself. It's just, we've done MoP Remix. There won't be that level of hype another time. I would love to see another expansion get this attention as well. And I think the biggest one that could really work for the remix style of play is Warlords of Jmulls. Yeah, one of the most hated expansions World of Warcraft has ever had, which is saying something. Yeah, bear that in mind. I think for Remix, WoD could really work. Because, seriously, think about it for a second. Take a step back. What does Remix focus on? Questing, leveling, dungeons, and raids. That is, quite literally, all that WoD did well. Also add in collecting things, like toys and mounts. That is all that WoD did well. Quite literally, the only stuff WoD did right was the things that Remix focuses on. It's not like we're gonna have to go through giant content droughts or whatever, trying to level up our shipyard, collect oil, do a bunch of mission board BS that no one cares about. Remix doesn't focus on that. It focuses on the leveling and the endgame content like the dungeons and raids. Remember the leveling in WoD? I still think to this day, even after doing Dragonflight, Warlords of Jmulls has far and away the best leveling experience. Each zone is different and unique, and the little garrison outposts and buffs you can acquire throughout that is super great, and adds so much identity and just interesting gameplay to those zones. They don't need to be groundbreaking or whatever, just cool. Mounted combat in the Grand was awesome. Calling down an artillery strike, yeah, it was just like basically an AoE, but it was cool. Spies of Iraq sucked because it was just a bunch of passive bonuses, but the zone itself was awesome. The little cutscenes you got for completing each of the zones as well. The dungeons were largely really cool, and do I even need to mention the raids? Imagine having the gem system. Imagine having even more varied like meta gems or cogwheel gems and tinker gems. You do Warlords of Jmulls. Expand on the gem system. Add gem loadouts for the love of God. Every time I get a new piece of gear, a new upgrade, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking at those stats. I'm going, ooh, that's spicy. Then I have to click, okay, take one gem out, take the other gem out, take the other gem out. Okay, open up the interface, slot the one gem in. Okay, now another one. Now another one. Oh! Just do it automatically, please. Or if for some reason you can't do that, just put it all on the cape or whatever, and just have the gear unlock an additional node on the cape. There's multiple ways to go about this. I like putting the gems on the actual pieces of gear because it makes the gear feel better, but just allow the gems to swap over. And honestly, in my opinion, speed the pace up even more. There are some strategies you can invoke to really speed up the leveling process, but especially if you're just gonna quest, which is what I largely did for my first character on MoP Remix, it's still gonna run you a decent number of hours, which is fine, but I think going a little bit faster wouldn't hurt. And don't, like, hamstring the cape on an ult for whatever reason. Just let all those stats carry over, because it's a remix event. Who cares about it being balanced that much? Just let those stats carry over. This is remix. Who's trying to go try hard here? It should be just dumb, wacky fun, where it all just escalates on itself and becomes a comedy one-bang fest, because that's the cool part of Remix. It's a limited time event, it's not here forever. We just go in, relive some cool memories, but at a vastly accelerated rate. Mop Remix is advertised, like in the slogan, to be overpowered. Lean into that. Don't be afraid to go too far. Like, sure, the stuff with the frogs probably went a bit too far, which is why it was patched out, but it's left like this sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, understandably so. Because even in the grand scheme of things, and I'm not saying that this is how it is, I'm just saying, even if the frog stuff didn't matter that much to most people in the end, it still leaves a sour taste that doesn't need to be there. Blizzard recently has had a bunch of kind of bad QA going to live for World of Warcraft with a lot of bugs. Mop Remix was no exception there with the frog. Is it an exploit? I think it is. Let's call it a mishap, though. Like, that made it to retail. It made it to Remix. It made it to live. I don't blame people for doing the frog stuff, personally, but it's created this feeling that you can't keep up. So just, next time, make sure that something like that doesn't exist. I think it was found on PTR, it just wasn't patched or whatever. I don't know about that, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But that's the kind of stuff that should be found out in testing, in PTR. Like, there's no excuse for that stuff to make it to live. So you fix that kind of stuff, you fix the scaling issues you get at higher levels, which I do feel from time to time. I was doing a Siege of Orgrimmar raid finder earlier, and I was just getting one-shot by random auto attacks every now and then. It's not particularly a good feeling. So yeah, my opinion, lean on the side of the player being powerful. Don't be afraid to allow the pace to get out of hand in terms of gearing and leveling, and just lean into the fun. We don't need to take Remix all that seriously, because it's not classic. And that's why I think they need to really take to heart. It's not classic. It's not meant to be a one-for-one experience to the original, and Mob Remix wasn't. But if we're going to do this again, have even more wacky gems and stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing some class-specific gems. Like, maybe gems that give you 5 extra talent points. Just dumb stuff like that, you know? Gotta love some water, though. Hot day today. Remember the corruptions and stuff from Battle for Azeroth? Maybe bring that kind of stuff back as well, like those abilities. Their main issue was the acquisition, because the abilities themselves were kind of cool. You obviously have to worry about button bloat at some point, obviously, but like, these are pools of things from World of Warcraft's past that we can look back on and take in one way or the other, and utilize. I know corruption's on from like Warlord to Draenor, but who cares? It's Remix, have fun with it. Don't feel constricted. At no point in the design philosophy of a Remix event, in my opinion, does this fit ever should come into the equation. It never should. You know what would be another cool idea? Dragon riding races. Because I know they do these for certain expansions where they add dragon riding races to these zones. Have those enabled during leveling in the Remix. How cool could that be? You already put dragon riding little nodes around the place to collect for bronze and for vigor. Have the races be available as well to acquire maybe even more bronze and some XP. Cause it'd be fun and wacky and it'd give players another thing to do. That's where I think Remix shines. It doesn't restrict you. You can go do dungeons, raiding, scenarios for mop, leveling, rare farming, exploration, stuff like that. Just lean into that kind of stuff. If you do Warlords of Draenor, you can turn the garrisons from a negative in a con that they were in WoD to a positive here. Where, say for instance, you know all those outposts in those other zones that you get while leveling to get a new ability? Have all of those be toggleable per zone. Give me mounted combat in Gorgrund, or in Terracar, or Shadowmoon, or whatever. Like, yeah, mounted combat specifically is a little bit weird because we have dragon riding now, but like, that's the kind of stuff you can lean into. Lift the restrictions and just allow some dumb arcadey fun. Because I genuinely don't think Remix needs all that much more on top of it. It's an extremely solid base. It's great. It's a great excuse to level alt and collect a bunch of mounts or pets or cosmetics you may have missed out on, or even some new recolors and stuff like that. It's a great excuse to do that while having a nice trip down memory lane. I love mop leveling, so I got to do that again, while getting a whole bunch of new mounts and cosmetics that I didn't have before. I love that. I think Remix is truly one of the best ideas they've had in years. It's also an idea that I hope doesn't get abandoned. I hope it gets iterated on. Just do it with other expansions, because it'd be cool. It fills that time gap between expansions so well, in my opinion. When's the last time, leading into a new expansion, that so many people wanted to play the game to this level? Like, imagine back in the days of Cataclysm, or Mists of Pandaria, where you had those massive lulls of content before the next expansion would come out. Imagine having a remix event to just fill the void, which is what we have right now before The War Within comes out. It's a great idea. It just, a few tinkers here and there would elevate it all the more. Have more polish, especially with stuff with like scaling. Don't arbitrarily restrict stuff like the cape. Make sure there's no like toad farm, or if there ends up being a toad farm, don't take it out. Because either you gotta roll back people, which will feel terrible for those players, or just keep it in the game so that people who really want that power can go easily get it. Remix should be open, at least open-ended, and multifaceted, where you can tackle it in any number of ways that suits your own personal preference. That's the beauty of it. And like, sure, maybe the gems can be a bit dull from time to time, or they can just clutter your inventory. I'd argue we're not using the inventory for anything else, so it's kind of fine, but I can see why some people would want the bags to be a bit cleaner. I think there are some really cool gems, just have even more. Bring back other powers that we used to have in the past, and bring in some new ones. Give me even more talent so I can just have fun with my class and my spec, and stuff like that. There's so much potential here. I love Mists of Pandaria Remix. I love it so much that it's got me this anticipated for the next potential time that they could do another remix event. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still really good with what we got. So leave a comment down below with what expansion you would love to see a remix for, and what changes you think could be done for the next remix, or changes that you think could be done for this remix that we're doing with Mists of Pandaria right now to polish it up a bit, or to smooth out the rough edges, or fix the scaling. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and to hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day. I'll see you all next time. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content in the future, and for more coverage of World of Warcraft. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.